We have an announcement finally on whether cell phones cause cancer. It's something that could affect all of us and our children. Scientists from the World Health Organization have been reviewing studies for the last week or so. I want to bring in our senior medical correspondent, Elizabeth Cohen, who joins us live with the findings. Essentially, what did they find?
The World Health Organization says that the radiation from mobile devices like cell phones is a possible carcinogen to humans. This is a very big deal because you and I have done segments about this before.
Sure.
It has gone back and forth. And this is really the first time that a large group, and it doesn't get any more sort of prestigious in many ways than the WHO, to say that it's a possible carcinogen. It puts it in the company of several other kinds of things, and so I want to tell you what it is, and I think that might give people an idea of what we're talking about. It puts it in the company of things like lead is also a possible carcinogen according to the WHO, as well as engine exhaust and chloroform. So that sort of gives you an idea of the kind of risk that we're talking about
So
here.
I can't help but ask, I mean, should we be alarmed? Should we be freaking out over this information?
You know what? I really hope that people who are listening to me are not freaked out for two reasons. One, they won't do the right thing, and we'll talk about what the right thing is in a minute. And two, they'll panic, and that's kind of silly because all these years we've been on cell phones and holding them to our heads, which is
Right,
what we're talking about as being bad. That's done. You can't do anything about that. And if you're on the phone right now, you don't need to drop it. It's not that kind of a carcinogen. It's a kind of a carcinogen, or allegedly, possibly, that would build up over time. One phone call, doctors tell me, is not going to give you cancer.
So what should we be doing? With this new information, what on earth should we be doing now?
We are so lucky that there is something that we can do, because a lot of medical problems we can't, but we're lucky that there is something, and I am holding it in my hands right now. You use a device to keep that phone away from your head. Okay, I'm going to make it very simple. This is what experts that I talk to don't want you to do. This radiation is very close to your head. The minute that you put one of these in, you can hold the phone at a distance. At this distance, that radiation is dissipating. It's not going to affect you very much, if at all. Hold it away from your head, which means using a wired piece like this or a Bluetooth, or put it on speakerphone. Keep it away from your head. That's the bottom line, and it's really easy to do. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times in the past year that I have spoken on the phone like this. I just don't do it.
I'm going to change my habits. Do you have any idea, or did WHO say anything about whether or not it can be on your body, on your person, in a pocket, in a holster, or anything like that? Did they weigh in at all?
WHO really focused on gliomas, which are brain tumors, because that's what a lot of the studies have been on. But Suzanne, I've certainly spoken to experts who say that they themselves do not carry it on their bodies, that they figure why take that risk if there is a risk, and so they will carry their phones in their purses or in a briefcase. They'll try to keep it a bit of a distance away from their bodies, but the jury is still out on that.
And what do you think cell phone companies are going to do? How do they respond to this? Is there a way that they can manufacture a safer phone, or?
Right, we're seeking a response from the CTIA, which is the industry group, and I think what could happen is that people like the FCC, or other groups like that in other countries might say, this is important what the WHO is saying, and so maybe we ought to tell cell phone companies to make phones with lower radiation. That's a possibility. They may tell cell phone companies, go back to the drawing board, come up with a phone that emits less radiation.
So bottom line, for those who are watching and who've wondered about whether or not this causes cancer,
right,
it's all about keeping it away from your head.
Right. The WHO says possibly. So experts I've talked to say, why in the world would you take the risk? Keep it away from your head by using some kind of an earpiece.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thanks.
It's something a lot of people have been asking and wondering, and clearly we have something that is rather conclusive from a very prestigious organization.
That's
it is
right.
a big deal.
It is. It is.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth.
I'm on my way.
If you've ever put a cell phone to your ear, you should listen to what neurosurgeon Dr. Keith Black has to say.
There's no way to say that cell phone use is safe. I think that the public has a right to know that there could be a potential risk. The public generally assumes that if one is selling something on the market, that we have had assurances that that device is safe.
To be clear, Dr. Black's message is at odds with headlines from the largest international study on cell phones and cancer. Their conclusion, little or no evidence cell phones are associated with brain tumors. But if you look just one layer deeper into the appendix of that same study, and you'll see something unsettling. Turns out participants in the study who used a cell phone for 10 years or more had doubled the rate of brain glioma, a type of tumor. And keep in mind, cell phone use in the United States has only been popular for around 15 years. Back in 1996, there were 34 million cell phone users. Today, nearly 300 million in use, according to industry figures.
Environmental factors take decades to see their effect, not a few years.
So if it may take decades to get a clearer answer, what can we say about cell phone safety now? Scientists here in San Jose, California, are trying to answer that very question.
So one of the things we have to do first is literally put the brain inside the head.
Exactly. So it's very late now.
The FCC requires all cell phones emit below 1.6 watts per kilogram of radiation.
Let's put some brain to it.
In order to test for that, scientists here try and mimic the human brain with salt, sugar, and water.
Let me show you precisely how they do this test. This is a model. This is supposed to approximate the human skull, an adult male. This is my phone that we've actually attached there. It's connected at the angle that most people would speak with. And inside over here, very important, this bubbly liquid inside, that's what represents liquid brain. What's going to happen is the phone is making a call. After a period of time, this device is going to come over here and start to measure radiation at all sorts of different points in the brain. After that, they're going to take all of those numbers, basically put it on a computer screen, and tell us where the hot spots are and just how high the levels got.
My cell phone measured within FCC limits, but the whole process was, well, surprisingly low tech. And what about different size skulls? Or children?
In children, their skull is thinner, their scalp is thinner, so the microwave radiation can penetrate deeper into the brain of children and young adults. And their cells are dividing at a much faster rate, so the impact of the microwave radiation can be much larger.
But there have been no studies on children in cell phone safety.
And here's something else that might surprise you. The cell manufacturers themselves actually advise against putting the cell phone right next to your head or really anywhere in your body. Take a look, for example, with the iPhone 4. The safety instructions specifically say when using the iPhone near your body for voice calls, keep it at least 15 millimeters or 5/8 of an inch away from your body. And what if you're a BlackBerry user specifically? They also have safety guidelines. In this case, they say keep it 0.98 inches or 25 millimeters from your body, meaning your head or really even your pocket.
Dr. Keith Black has been talking about this longer than many, but the voices joining him are becoming louder and more prominent. The city of San Francisco pushed for radiation warning labels on cell phones. The head of a prominent cancer research institute sent a memo to all employees urging them to limit cell phone use because of possible risk of cancer. And the European Environmental Agency has pushed for more studies, saying cell phones could be as big a public health risk as smoking, asbestos, and leaded gasoline.
The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, they set the guidelines for how much radiation a cell phone can emit, and they say cell phones are safe. But how can they be so sure? Keeping them honest, we decided to come here to try and find out for ourselves, but they declined an on-camera interview.
The type of radiation coming out of your cell phone is called non-ionizing. It's not like an X-ray, but more like a very low-powered microwave oven.
What microwave radiation does, in the most simplistic term, is very similar to what happens to your food when you put your food in a microwave oven. It's essentially cooking the brain.
But based on their past statements, the FCC isn't convinced there's a real risk and maintain they, quote, do not endorse the need for consumers to take any precautions to reduce exposure. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, San Jose, California.